Okay, everyone, thank you for your patience. Silence your phones if you would, please. So before we get into the articles, I'd just like to go over some housekeeping. We'll stick with this. It's working so far. Thank you. So in this main two sections in the front, these are the resident voters. There's a small section over in the right in the back. Those are for non-resident individuals who will not be able to participate in the voting. As the moderator, it is my job to see that we go through all of the articles of the warrant and that we have proper discussion. We will be adhering to the rules published in the town meeting times as per the bylaws of the town of Phillipston. I would like to take a moment to thank the board and committees for assisting in making this special meeting happen. They're in the front row here. I have the finance committee to my right, and to my left I have town clerk, town council, board of selectmen, and also the town treasurer and assistant. And also the tellers over to our right who help check everyone in. They will help with any voting needs that we have if it comes up. Before we move into the next part, I just want to make sure that there's no opposition for having a non-resident speak on the floor. If we need to consult with the town council, Tom McKinney, any issues? Seeing none, we'll move forward with that. So the process we will be taking is that I will ask for a motion on the article and then ask for a second. Generally, the finance committee will speak to the motion, and then we will give the floor an opportunity to discuss the motion. We can talk about the article, but not about specific people. Please keep the discussion in line with the scope of the article. Be aware of what has already been discussed, so we are not repeating the same point. Once we have reached a point where discussion has reached a level of clarity, we will move to a vote. If you would like to participate, please raise your hand, stand, and state the question to get my attention, and I will have you come up to this microphone up front to speak to the discussion. Now, I do need to let you guys know we are recording this, so it will be posted on YouTube later, so it is very important that you come up to the microphone, state your name, state your address, and then we will go through the discussion or question that you might have. So as we move through this, if there's multiple questions, I please ask that you raise your hand. I will make sure that each of you gets an opportunity to come up and speak. I just want to make sure that we are being respectful to everyone that's waiting and we go through it in a proper manner. So I believe that that is all of the housekeeping. I also do want to reiterate that we are talking specifically about the articles. There's a lot of line items in this budget, and different questions and items might come up if we steer away from what the article represents. If we're talking about personalities and things like that nature, I may interrupt you and just ask you to stay on point with the article. Please don't take offense to this. I'm just trying to moderate the meeting and ensure that we're staying in line with what we're trying to discuss here. Okay. So with all that being said, I think we are ready to move into Article 1. Because of the nature of this article, it has each budgetary line item. So before we have the Finance Committee put into a motion, I'm going to go through each line item. I'm going to read the amended amount, which is what we are going to be voting on. And if you have a question along that line, please say question. I will put a notation next to it, and once we get through each line item, we'll return back to the questions, and at that point we'll have an opportunity to discuss them further. Okay? Take a quick sip of water because there's a lot of them. Here we go. All right. Board of Assessors, payroll, $28,100. Certification stipend, $1,000. Expenses, $14,000. Board of Selectmen, administrative assistant payroll, $93,642. Heard. Department assistant, $21,320. Building and groundskeepers, blank. Expenses, $227,750. Heard. ADA, $500. Workers' compensation, $35,000. IT, $36,684. VADAR, $15,000. Queen Lake payroll, $1,997. Queen Lake expense, $2,100. Capital Improvement Planning Committee, expense, $50. Moderator, expense, $50. Finance Committee, Clerk payroll, $869. Expense, $300. Reserve fund, $40,000. Town accountant, payroll, $50,000. Expense, $1,000. Town clerk, assistant town clerk payroll, $4,390. Certification stipend, $1,000. Expense, $4,622. Election, $6,900. Voter registration, $250. Treasurer, treasurer HR salary, $31,369. Certification stipend, $1,000. That was heard, by the way. Assistant treasurer payroll, $4,000. Expense, $7,000. Tax title expenses, $20,000. Group health life, $199,000. Heard. Social Security Medicare, $20,000. Unemployment comp, $11,000. Worcester Reg retirement, $180,877. Question heard. Highway garage debt, $35,719. Tax collector, assistant tax collector payroll, $7,560. Certification stipend, $1,000. Expense, $7,300. Tax title, $4,000. Public safety, dispatch services, expense, $50,000. Emergency management, payroll, $6,486. Expense, $10,000. Fire department, fire chief salary, $45,651. Heard. Administrative assistant, blank. Payroll, $227,118. Expense, $66,642. Police department, police chief salary, $93,642. Heard. Chief on-duty holidays, $3,602. Payroll, $278,467. Heard. Administrative assistant, $5,000. Expenses, $104,060. Public health and regulation, animal control, payroll, $5,512. Expense, $1,905. Board of Health payroll, $36,121. Expenses, $43,656. Building department, payroll inspector, $18,000. Payroll clerk, $4,320. Expense, $3,420. Inspector of barns and animals, payroll, $853. Expense, $100. Zoning Board of Appeals, clerk payroll, $870. Expenses, $120. Conservation Commission, clerk payroll, $905. Expense, $2,500. Planning Board, clerk salary, $5,551. Secretary payroll hourly, $1,622. Expense, $3,280. Consultant, $26,266. Public Facilities, Agriculture Commission, clerk payroll, $413. Expense, $1,539. Highway, payroll, $214,348. Heard. Expense, $62,200. Snow and ice, $70,000. Phillipston Memorial Building, custodian payroll, $10,000. Expenses, maintenance, $50,000. Cemetery Commission, payroll, $16,989. Expense, $5,679. Tree warden, payroll, $1,940. Expense, $12,000. Culture and recreation, library, payroll, $16,393. Expense, $7,353. Circulation materials, state, $5,937. Recreation, expense, $5,000. Historical commission, clerk salary, $151. Expense, $50. Community services, council on aging, expense, $500. Veteran services, administration, $5,624. Direct benefits, $10,000. And that is all of the line items. So we are going to go back through each of the line items that were questioned, starting with the first. Board of Selectmen, administrative assistant payroll, $93,642. Yes, sir. No, we don't. The motion will be done after the total is complete. All right, so there was a question on the administrative assistant payroll. Is the question still on the floor? Who is, sir, could you please come up and state your name and address?
Lincoln Road. I thought the last election we actually voted to reduce that salary, and the fact that that wasn't the salary that she was earning into this position, and most of the numbers in this report are lies, because they're all fictitious. It's not what we actually pay salaries, and what qualifications are new to the position to justify this drastic expense. I mean, this increase in payroll is what, that 12–15% in 1 year? I mean, that's equal to the police chief salary. It's not a life safety position. The town of Phillipston, a small town of this size, does not justify or warrant that kind of salary in any position. It's not life safety. Thank you. Thank you.
Uh-oh. Test. There we go. Oh. Psst. Can you state your name and address, please?
Peter Travisano, 110 Narrow Lane. So I've had the pleasure of working with Melanie for the past...
I would ask that you please stay in line with the article and not talk about personalities and only positions.
Well, thank you. I just want to say that this position is a demanding position that really requires a lot of attention, detail, focus. It's a central position for the town and for the community, and I support the salary as it is in the warrant.
Thank you, sir. Is there any additional discussion? Oh, yes, sir.
I make a motion that this be a ballot vote, not a stand vote.
Okay. There is a motion on the floor to have the, well, hang on one moment. So, heard, sir. There is no motion for any change or amendment to anything that we've discussed up to this point. So that is a little premature. Once we have something on the floor, we can certainly move towards doing a...
I make a motion we bring the salary to where it was voted upon at the last town meeting.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second for the administrative assistant payroll to be changed back to the $78,184. Is there any discussion? There's a comment up here. Yes. Comments from the Board of Selectmen?
Nicole Goff, 130 Queen Lake Road. And I would just like to make a couple comments. First off, I appreciate everyone being here. I know everyone has strong emotions and passions when it comes to this topic. However, from someone new coming in who has fresh eyes, I would like to say that while some of the arguments here about that position not being as important as an emergency like the chief of police or the fire or what have you, it is very important in us doing our job to be able to help facilitate anything that you guys need that needs to get done. That position does help in those emergency fields. It is a lot of work. It is not an easy position, and it deserves the pay that is required and needed to be competitive, to be able, so that we can have the right people in that job so that they can get done what's needed to be done so that we can effectively run this town to the best of our ability. And that is where we are coming from. It is not to deceive anybody. It is not to have our own agenda up here. We want to do what's best for all. And that is where we are coming from. So as someone from outside looking in, I would just like to keep in mind that this is a very important position for this town. And even though the work may not be shown to all of you, it is to us. And we need flexibility to be competitive if we were to lose someone in that position, to hire somebody. And that is why it's important and why we felt we needed to bring it back to that price range. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional discussion? Hang on one moment, sir. This individual actually raised their hand first, so I'm going to let them go first.
Hopefully you can all hear me. I always talk loud. I'm Karen Foley, 20 Narrow Lane. The position has to know a little bit about every single aspect of the town and every single department. It has to know when the assessors need to get the things they need to get done. They have to kind of know what's going on with elections. They have to know how to bid for highway. They have to know everything that goes on in the town in some respect. They have to know master law. They're going to know procurement laws. There's just too much to tell you how much they got to know. All right? And I'm talking about the position, not the person. If you look up in the town of Templeton, Athol, your surrounding towns, maybe not some of the little bitty towns, but you will find that the highest paid person in town government is a town manager. No, we don't have a town manager, but we expect the same work to be done and need the same work to be done as a town manager. You're not in a time frame anymore to have a little secretary sitting in that desk just writing a few letters. It's a lot more complicated than all of that. That's all I have to say about the position.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, if I could, when I get a chance.
Yep. I'm going to let the Board of Selectmen speak on this one more time, and then I'm going to start. So just raise your hands when we do the discussion on the next pieces.
Okay, so first of all, just so that everybody's aware that the administrative assistant has put in that our last day is going to be July 18th because previously the board had made some
Point of order is called.
okay, so let me move on from that. we're going to need funding when we advertise for another person for that position.
We do need to
Okay.
stay on line with the article currently as written.
Okay. So what we'd like to do is ask, is the funding for that position at that amount, so that we can replace somebody for that amount. The other thing is that job is a grade, it's a grade 6, step 1. There's other positions in that. You probably heard me question some other accounts. If we decide to cut this one, in all fairness, we need to be looking at the other accounts that are the same grade and step. So I just want to keep everything in context.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I know that there is additional discussion here. Sir, you were up after, so please come up, state your name and address.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. My name is Brian Rosengren from 30 State Road. One question that I do have is, at the town meeting in May, the original salary that was asked for this position was $91,063, and it got reduced down to the $78,000 that was voted on. With this amended budget, we are now, or it is now in front of us at $93,642. In 49 days, that increase of $2,579 took place. Why?
Is there any comment on that? Do we have comment on that up here?
Can we, I'm looking for some direction from...
No, hang on, I need, is there any issue with Melanie Jackson speaking on town floor as she is not a resident of Phillipston?
Conflict of interest. Mr. Moderator, from the Finance Committee.
But hang on one moment while I consult counsel, and I'll check in with you one moment. So due to the commentary around having a non-resident speak on floor, I'm going to have a vote to confirm, just a vote to allow a non-resident to speak. So it's a majority vote, so we're going to move that out. All those in favor of the non-resident being able to speak, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. I'm going to have to do a count on that for standing, unfortunately. I could not tell based on the volume. So, tellers, if we could please have a standing vote. All right. We're going to just vote that one more time. All those in favor of non-resident speaking on floor, please stand. I lost mine apparently in a minute. What was it? Thank you. All those opposed, please stand.
This is your Did you vote, Jerry? You didn't vote. Very good. So, a lot of drinking, right? If you don't want to,
So we have a situation where it's a tie 34-34. So as the moderator, I have not placed my vote, and typically my standing is that I am impartial and refuse to vote. Given the situation and the way I look at government, I feel that if you're in a position for the town, you should be able to speak at town floor. As a moderator, I feel like that's something that I have to vote yes for. So in this instance, I am going to vote yes, that I will allow the individual to speak on town floor.
Okay, so we can ask Melanie for an explanation?
So, Melanie, if you could please, hang on one second, let me just get back to the question that was asked that initiated this, and the question was, what caused the increase from what it was started at on the administrative assistant payroll line item from $91,000 to $93,642?
Because it wasn't at the top step before, now it is.
Thank you. Hang on one moment.
Because it wasn't at the top step before, now it is.
Okay, is there additional discussion? So I know I saw a few hands before. I'm going to go in order. I saw you, sir, you were speaking or had your hand raised earlier. I'm going to try my best to go in order as I've seen multiple hands come up.
Paul Valois, 725 Earlston Road. I had my hand up twice. First one is, it's Phillipston. We're not comparing ourselves to Athol, to Templeton, where the population is so much greater and the wealth in those towns are so much greater. We got to keep that in mind. And second, this going at the top step. You're blowing away the stepping process by putting it at the top step. Then what happens next year?
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Moderator?
One moment. I had you individual right here.
Ruth French, live at Queen Lake Road. I'm also on the Finance Committee. I want to make this clear that this is not a salaried account. It is an hourly account. However, there is always room for improvement. You never know if somebody leaves, they come back, you know. You got to be able to hire somebody. And so it was the Finance Committee's recommendation that we put it, the salary range, to the top of that step. Not that that's what will get paid, but we've got to be able to have a salary range. And I think everybody understands what I meant by a salary range. It's not a set salary. It's an hourly position, but you have to be able to fund it. If it doesn't get spent, then it rolls over and like into free cash. There are other budgets in this town's budget that are also have the chance of being underspent. I mean, there's expenses, because you never know. Sometimes you have to guess your expenses. You have to make a good faith estimate. And that's what the Finance Committee decided to do, was to recommend. That's why it went up to the 93, because we said maybe we just ought to put it at the top step, even though it's a salaried account, and then that way you'd have the funding. Now, that being said, we adjusted quite a few accounts so that we didn't have to go through that, because the override got voted down. So what we have presented tonight is indeed a balanced account. It didn't depend on an override. So keep that in mind when we get around to voting on this. It's not a salary. It's an hourly account.
Thank you. So there was an additional question from Board of Selectmen or discussion point.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment because I think maybe someone's misunderstanding the process. First of all, to be fair with everybody, the people have already voted for the grade 6 step 1 in the wage comp plan. We brought that to town meeting. That was already voted. So what we're asking is the range that was discussed by Ruth. It's a lower amount to 78,000 something up to the 93,000. So if there's nothing right now saying that we're going to fund that we're going to pay the person that amount of money, but it gives us the flexibility between the 78 and the 93. So I just want to keep that in mind. It's not like tomorrow we're going to say, okay, you got a raise, you're going to make $93,000 a year. That's not true. If we're talking about the positions and the funding for the positions, if a grade 6, step 1, the top pay is the $93,000 number, then that gives us the flexibility as a select board when we hire somebody to move them up to that amount. Tomorrow, we're going to be interviewing some people for police chiefs. I need to know that that's a grade 6, step 1, and I cannot, whatever's voted on this here, to keep it with the wage plan, we need to be consistent and fair and that they make the same amount of money. We're not going to pay different individuals because of whatever somebody thinks about them. A different amount. If it's a grade 6,
It's position,
step
not
1.
person.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Don't the position. If we need to hire another person to fill that position in 18 days from now, then we need to have the funding available in case we find somebody that's very capable of doing that job.
Thank you. All right, so been a couple individuals from up here that have given you guys a little bit more information to help with the discussion. I'd ask anyone that has a question to please raise their hand so I can see what remaining questions need to be checked in. Ma'am, in the third row back, if you could please come up and state your name and address.
Good evening, Luann Royer, 3 Samuel Drive. So what you're saying here makes no sense. You're going to max, or you could actually max, everybody's salary accounts to be in line with the top scale of their grade. Doesn't make sense. You start out, and at the end of the year, if you have to move the funds over because something happened, then go back to your town meeting and ask for the extra money. But to jump salary accounts $20,000, $25,000 because you want to be at everybody's top scale, we can do that to the police department, we can do it to the fire, we can do it to the highway department. Why not max them all to the top of their pay grades?
That's what we're doing.
That's what you're doing, maxing it. No, I'm saying, why are you? That's why we're here. If you're making a pay thing, you don't jump somebody's salary $20,000 because you want to be at that top of that pay grade. You're going to sink this budget in a couple years because, like I say, you do it for one, you should start pushing everybody else to their top of their pay grades. So wrong.
Okay. Thank you for the comments. All right, are there any additional discussion? I'm going to let you go right here.
Hi, Carla Charter, 125 Willis Road, Phillipston. When I saw the salary, it feels like it's only half the picture, because if I'm not wrong, the town administrator also does the grants. Am I right? So that should be balanced against how much she's saving us by getting a grant, by not having to pay for ourselves, by being able to go out and get grants. This is only half the picture because we're saving money because we're getting grants rather than having to come up with tax dollars for items. So it needs to be, I don't know if anyone has a figure as to how much we got in grants this year.
The question, can you say that, repeat that?
Does anyone have an idea of how much we got in grants this year that otherwise we would have had to spend tax dollar? Roughly? No? Okay, I was just curious. But we've got to also balance it, that there are monies being saved here too. Anyway.
Thank you. All right, saw there was an individual who had a question right here.
Overloy, 725 Earlston Road. As it was made a comment that this is an hourly position, not a salary position, I asked the question at a selectman meeting that if a person puts the overtime in, they could be paid up to that $93,000, and the answer was yes. Let's keep that in mind also.
Okay, thank you. So the motion that was seconded was the administrative assistant payroll position be moved from the $93,642 to $78,184. We've had some discussion. Is there any additional discussion before we move to a vote?
Brian Rosengren, 30 State Road. Could I just have the hours that the administrative assistant works? On the website, it says 34 and a half hours. And if that's correct, based on the $93,642, it comes out to $52 an hour. I just wanted to see if that's correct or not.
So, hey, please. So I just want to clarify, because I think that there was comments earlier that clarified that it was an hourly position, not a salary position, and that, well, is there any addition? I actually don't. I don't want to repeat what was said exactly, because I don't have complete recollection. I believe the comments were here. Finance Committee might be able to speak to this a little bit.
Okay, so whatever amount of hours, and I don't know the exact hours that she works a week, because that includes selectmen's meetings, that includes other things. But anyway, you can't take the 93,000 and divide it by the hours, because she's getting paid hourly right now. So I don't know what
I'd ask that if somebody wants to ask that question, please raise their hand. And
I don't know what the hourly rate is at this moment. But it's not a salaried account. This is a payroll account, not a salary.
Yes, sir. Go on.
So let me rephrase my question then. Out of the math in the hours that are posted on the website for the town, the Board of Selectmen's office hours, the office hours are only open for 34 and a half hours a week. That $93,000, if the person is working hourly, that $93,000 divided by the $34 or 34 and a half hours per week for the whole year comes out to 1,794 hours a year. 93,642 divided by 1,794 hours equals $52 an hour. Is that correct? Is that the hours that are worked per week? That's what I'm asking.
Do you want to speak on it? Do you want to speak?
Well, he keeps assuming that it's salary.
I don't know how many hours a week she does.
Gerard Fandryer, 210 Royalston Road. I'm sorry, Brian, but you keep assuming that we're paying the person the $93,000. That's not the truth. The truth is the person gets less than the less than $75,000 a year, and the person works hourly. You keep dividing things into it as if it's a salary position. It's not a salary position. They don't get that. And furthermore, if someone works overtime, shouldn't they be paid for the overtime if it's needed? For the most part, I mean, do you like working overtime and not getting paid for it? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Sorry, I appreciate the questions. I would ask that you raise your hand so I can have other individuals have the opportunity to make a comment, but I'm going to let you go here because you had the last question.
My apologies. He just instructed me, or he addressed me. That's why I wanted to come back up here, okay? So with that being said, Mr. Fandryer, the $15,458, that's all overtime? Okay, so the $78,184 that was voted on at the annual town meeting, the difference is $15,458. That brings it up to the $93,642 that's being voted on. All I'm asking now is the $78,184, that's the base salary, and the rest, $15,458, $458 is all overtime.
It's not salary.
Or hourly, I'm sorry, hourly. So the $78,184 is hourly based on the year.
No. We need to be able to fund the position because if the person is planning on leaving, so we need to be able to hire it, and we need to, if we come across someone who is more educated and better than what we have now, and it demands a higher rate, we need to be able to fund that person. That's why we are looking for the money that we are. It's not to pay the current person more money.
Mr. Moderator, so how many hours does the administrative assistant work per week? 36 hours a week.
Yes, sir.
I just want to point out something because the selectman was going over some previous town meeting votes from a few years ago, and I want to remind everybody that a person that was doing that position previously was making $94,000 a year. So this.
I think we need to stay in line with what the article is, Bernie. We're getting too far back. We had another question from the Finance Committee.
Jim Haley, 5 Myrtle Road, and just looking kind of at the wage plan, the range of the wage plan is $66,872 up to $93,642, with a mid-range of $79,393. So that's based on a 40-hour week. It's not, but the position isn't 40 hours, but at the top of the wage plan, like it was said, if it was a 40-hour position, it would be $93,642. If it was a 40-hour position at the top of the thing. When they look for someone, they find someone, hopefully they won't just say, here, have everything. But they have to, you know, if, I don't know, the best person in the world comes along and it works out, then you have to be able to pay it. But hopefully we find someone at, you know, a mid-range or lower, whatever, for a starting salary. But the mid-range would be about $79,000, which is what approximately was voted at last time. Currently, at the 36 hours or whatever was being put in with the pay rate that the person is at now, that's what would be actually spent this year if we hired someone to fill at the exact same rate. But you know, how much do we really want to limit them as to what they can look for? Or do we just want to say, why don't we find someone mid-range, and if someone else comes along, then come back and ask for more money? I don't know. But those are the ranges.
Thank you for the additional information. All right, so there's been new information provided. Before we move to a vote, is there any additional discussion? And please keep in mind, let's try and keep in line with not repeating ourselves. If you have information that you're going to repeat that's something that's already been discussed, please keep that in mind before you come up and make your comments. So, sir, there's a question.
Richard Valcourt, 70 Baldwinville Road. Okay, we made some progress. She works 36 hours a week. What is her current hourly wage? And who would make the determination as to what she gets paid? If she gets an attaboy
I would ask that you just mention it as position.
We don't, the selectmen. Does anybody have any idea what does this woman get paid per hour?
I would ask that you keep it to position, sir. That's when you're referencing, we're talking about the article and the position, not a person.
What? I'm confused. The position, I'm sorry. The administrative assistant. What is her hourly wage? We made some progress. She works 36 hours a week. So we determined that. What does the administrative assistant get paid per hour? And who would determine whether or not she gets a pay raise or even a downgrade if she made a mistake or did something. An attaboy, you get, hey, another couple of grand. Good job. Anybody know?
Lisa. Yes, Board of Selectmen.
I don't have the exact hourly pay in front of me, Rich, but any pay increase would come from a vote from the Board of Selectmen. It would come from a vote, not by one selectman like has happened in the past. It would be a vote of the Board of Selectmen. So, and you have to have a little, you elected us three, you should have a little bit of trust that we're trying to do what's in the best interest of the town. So.
Okay. Okay. All right. Heard. Okay.
Let's move the question.
Second.
All right, so this is a 2/3 vote to move the question. We're going to have a vote. All those.
Ballot, I asked for that and got second.
This is a vote to move the question.
Yeah, but this is a vote to move the question, sir, not for the actual vote on the administrative assistant payroll. So we're going to vote to move the question. It's a 2/3. So just due to having to do a standing vote in the last vote, I'm going to do that one more time. So all those in favor of moving the question, please stand.
Moving the question starts discussion. They don't know.
What? Hang on 1 second. Let me get some clarification here. Please hold. So moving the question and having it seconded, we have to vote on that. If it passes, it stops discussion. So keep that in mind. So if this passes, we're going to move to a vote on the administrative assistant payroll. If it fails, we can continue discussion. Okay? So all those in favor of moving the question, please stand.
I was going to do the same thing.
They discussed the night.
45 minutes is plenty.
So I don't need to vote. Yeah, still do. All right, thank you, everyone. I appreciate the patience as we move through this. So all those opposed to moving the question, please stand. All right, passes unanimously. So with this, thank you. With this, moving the question, we're going to stop discussion and move to a vote. The vote is going to be to amend the administrative assistant payroll position from $93,642 to $78,184. Okay. So we're about to move into a vote.
We didn't have a second.
Didn't.
Yeah, one more. Give us another second to move into the second.
That's why we need to discussion.
A valid vote, please.
So I do need you to come up and make an official motion, sir.
Paul Valois, 725 Wilson Road. I make the motion this be a ballot vote, please.
So there's a motion to move this to a ballot vote, and I did hear a second. So we are going to move forward with that. Just give me one moment to make sure that we handle this properly.
It's a majority.
We have to vote for it, take it to ballot.
Okay, so obviously we're working through this. There is a motion to have this be a ballot vote, and there is a second. So we actually have to vote on that. We have to vote to do this as a ballot vote. If it passes, we will move forward with the next step for doing the ballot vote. So lots of steps here. We're going to work through it. We're almost there. All right, so all those in favor of having the vote on the administrative assistant payroll change to be done via ballot, I'm going to have you stand. Please stand.
Yeah. So what's the step? If we do a ballot vote, what is that?
I'll hold this up and you can ask anybody who's going to get on. If they don't have a pen, and so I'm going to get thousands, and we'll be collecting. But you're going to take a short recess, both ladies and I look at yes or no and figure out the answer.
So I would just, maybe, just, it's going to pass, obviously. Yeah. So I would just have people, like, say, starting in the first row here, second row, third row, and then just go to this side, do the same thing.
And bring
Just
their
go to the
ballot
ballot. Okay. But then, they have their,
Do you have the ballot? You want to get the ballot box? Because I look like yeah.
yeah.
What's the
Oh, no, this is just a majority vote.
Oh, so I can do majority?
Yeah, yeah. If
Okay.
it was like I think you can just declare it. You can declare it.
All right, thank you, everyone. So I really appreciate the patience on this. Obviously, with the voices being really loud and with it being very divided, like we had a tied vote already, I'm going to have more standing votes than I would typically. So I really appreciate the patience on this. So this is a majority vote, and it did pass, so we're going to be moving forward with a ballot vote. So currently, the tellers and the town clerk, please confirm everybody received your yes/no ballot slip. All right.
Explain what they're voting for. Are they voting for the 93 or the 78? What are they voting for?
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, so there's a request to clarify what you are all voting on. All right? So here's the clarification. So what you will be voting for, if you vote yes, you are saying you want the administrative payroll to be $78,184. If you vote no, you are voting to support the current $93,642, that is the amended amount in the warrant. Okay? All right, I apologize. The council just gave me some clarification. So you're voting to, yes vote is saying you want the administrative assistant payroll line item to be $78,184. That is your yes vote. If you vote no, the motion to amend it fails, so it stays as is. Okay? All right. I have a couple questions, and this is a process question. We're not having any additional discussion on this. If this is a process question, I'll entertain it. Yes? No, this is a process question I'm asking, so it has to be this. I'm not going to entertain discussion at this point. And ma'am, just because it's so loud, if you want to come up and speak here, I apologize. I had a hard time hearing her.
Lori Lyons, 70 Willis. So it says vote number 6 or vote no 6 on the top. What is the 6 for? On the top of the orange card.
I think it's probably just something that was.
What it was, but so we can cross that out. It's not. In
yeah, it's just yes and no. That's the focus.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. That's a good question. Thank you. Okay, so so we keep it orderly, we're going to go row by row, and we're going to start on the right, my right side, so everyone else is left, and we're going to start with the front row. So everyone in the front row, if you could please proceed over to the tellers and the town clerk. They will have a pen available for you to place your vote and put it in the ballot envelope, and we're going to work through everyone, and once we get all the votes, we'll take a brief recess. Oh, I'm actually going to have these guys go first. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know. You'll get it. Oh, wait. Please wait until these guys return to their seats. We're just going to try and keep it orderly. I don't want a long line. Everyone's eager. All right. Next row, please. All right, third row.
All another ballot.
Okay,
just in case.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was going to suggest that. I'm glad.
We'll do you guys last. We'll do that, yeah. Fourth row, please. Sixth row, please. I'll do that. I'll have that happen during the recess.
Okay.
Next row, please. Next row, please. All right, we're going to start with the front row on the right side now, please.
Are you going to vote?
Next row, please.
No, I'm not.
Next row, please. And the row behind that can go as well. We'll keep this moving. Okay, and the rest of you over on the left side, we can finish it up here. Thank you so much.
Karen. Karen. I was going to ask.
What did you do to your husband, Karen?
When did you mail it? Monday morning. Today's Wednesday. I'll just like next week. Remember where you're going?
All right, so everyone up in the front that has a vote that they'd like to place, please bring it up. Probably about 5 minutes. All right, we good? Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. Can I have everyone's attention real quick? Excuse me. Thank you. So, we're going to take a 5-minute recess approximately to count the votes that were just placed. If you did not vote, if you decided to refrain from voting, I need you to go over to the tellers and get a blue voting card. In the chance that we have another situation where we need a ballot vote, you need to have a blue card to participate. Okay? So if you haven't voted, please go get a blue card. Otherwise, we're going to move to a recess to get the votes and get the outcome. Okay? 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. And good? Yep. All right, thank you everyone for the patience. All right, so we do have the outcome of the ballot vote, and there were 46 yeses, 24 noes, so the amendment passes. All right, total of 70 votes. Okay, so now we can move on to the next line item that had a question. Under Board of Selectmen expenses, $227,750. Is there still a question on the floor for this? Yes, sir. If you could please come up to the microphone.
Ron Ricos, 10 Lincoln Road. I'm just wondering what happened that we could lower the expenses of the select board by $6,000.
Yes.
We had to make budget cuts.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any expense accounts that ask for an increase in this original budget, we chalked out the increase and made them, okay, you're gonna have to level fund your expenses. So, I'm pretty sure most of the expense accounts, unless they had a legitimate, everything's legitimate, kind of, had a reason that they had to raise their expenses, we backed them back down to last year.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. All right, with that additional information, is there any additional question on that line item? Seeing no additional question, we will move on to the next item that was marked. Treasurer HR salary, $31,369. Is there still a question on the floor for this? Seeing no question, we will move on down to Group Health Life, $199,000. Is there still a question on the floor? Yes, sir.
Dave Manty, 570 Royalston Road. How was this reduced 29,196? I was just wondering how we got that number to 199. Thank you.
Yes.
Because at the annual town meeting, you voted to do away with the building and groundskeeper, so I was able to get rid of that health plan. And then in order to save money, we went with the most popular health plan for the extra position that we need to, the extra plan that we need to fund, instead of the most expensive one, as you should actually do to protect yourself financially.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional discussion on that line? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to the next item that was in question. Worcester Red Retirement, $180,877. Is there still a question on the floor? Yes, sir.
Paul Valois, 725 Earls Road. Exactly what that is, I've been told it's matching, but I was also told that there is no matching from the town.
Okay, comment?
Okay, I actually had somebody else ask me, so I said, I went and I actually got our assessment so that I could look at that. What it is the Worcester Regional Contributory Retirement System. Yes, the employees contribute, but they also the thing is you have active members, retired members, and beneficiaries that maybe they were given so much that they can do, but we have to pick up the balance of it because they live longer than, whatever. So it's basically the summary of our data. You've got the employer normal cost, which includes the administrative assessments and the expected employee contributions and the unanticipated, that you weren't. And then you've got your accruals. So the total bill, based on all the actuaries and the accruals, is $100,877 if it's paid on July 1st. If it's not paid on July 1st, it's $184,042. So I'm hoping that we actually cut the check on July 1st.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. Is there any additional questions on this? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Fire Department, Fire Chief salary, $45,651. Is there any additional question?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to make a motion to reduce that amount to $37,921 so we can keep in line with all step 6, grade 6, step 1 positions.
I'll second that.
Could I get that number one more time, please?
Excuse me?
Can I get that number one more time?
Yeah, the number is 37,921.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor and a second to amend the Fire Department Fire Chief salary to $37,921. Is there any discussion? Question?
Paul Valois, 725 Earlston Road. It was voted upon at town meeting at the $39,746. If we've done this on the other one, this should go back to what the town voted on a couple weeks back. I make a motion that it goes to $39,746.
Is that stack?
Amended.
So we have to vote on the presenters, the amendment, and then the amendment as amended, and then the actual.
I gotta take the minutes.
Hang on one moment, because we just kind of stacked some motions there, so I just got to make sure I'm talking through this protocol properly. Okay. So, the first motion and second was to amend the fire chief salary to $37,921. There was a second, so we're going to have to vote on that one. Okay? Once that is voted on, and the outcome is presented. If it fails, then we're going to move to the next motion in second. No?
Right, so you can, there's a motion to amend, you can dispose of that motion, and then somebody can make another motion to amend that. No, you have to just.
So once we get through the vote for the 37,921, we will entertain the second motion that was seconded to move it to the 39,746. Before we move on to that one, though, we need to continue the discussion on the 37,921 amendment. I know this is a lot of information and confusing, so we're going to get through it. Is there any additional discussion around the first amendment request of 37,921? I saw your hand earlier, so I'll get you.
Okay, so my only question is to Selectman Mallowin. You said let's move it down to that to put him at the first step of what step class 6 classification is, right?
Correct.
So if this gentleman's worked here, or whoever this position is, and they've been with the town 5-10 years, and they've managed to move up in those steps, why would you slap him back down to the first step? There's no method to the madness you're speaking.
Okay. Thank you for the discussion, comments. All right, is there any additional discussion? Yes.
37,921 is enough to fund the current fire chief's position at the hours worked at the current pay rate. They don't know
Yes.
He doesn't put hours on his timesheet, so I can't answer that. He's salaried.
Yes.
Is there a number of hours that the fire chief is supposed to work?
Not more than 19.5.
Yes, additional comment.
Rachel Boutwell, 3 Pine Meadow. Okay, I'm a little confused because at the first town meeting, his original salary was at $38,776. Now, Bernie, you just turned around and just dropped him below what he was paid last year. Why would you want to do that?
I understand the question. What we're trying to do here is be fair with everybody and keep, if we passed a wage.
This is a salary position.
I know, but we passed a wage and comp plan at town meeting, and we're modifying that at this town meeting to say, like, the the grade 6, step 1 is not worth the 93,000, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But we should be consistent with everybody.
But
okay?
Why would you go below what he's already currently making?
Well, why should we have somebody doing a job that's beyond the administrative assistant and say, like, it's not worth it?
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm
Okay.
asking about the fire department position.
Yep.
Why are you dropping him below what his current rate is?
So that it's equal with the other people who are making.
But he was already making that. Why would you drop him?
I'm not going to get into arguing discussion with you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, hang on, guys. All right, anything else? Let's go through the process and have the conversation. So moving forward, just to avoid additional back and forth, please address all questions to myself, and I will ensure that we get opportunities for people to respond and give the information, and then I'll give you the opportunity to work through this, okay? So looking for additional discussion on this point. In the back, not you, sir, the one behind you had her hand up before.
Lori Lyons, 70 Willis. So, as a past administrator, I was never allowed to cut my employees' rate down lower than what they were paid, even if there was a disciplinary reason or administrative reason. So my question is to town council, if an employee gets dropped on their pay rate, is that a legal action that you legally can do that?
Thank you. Let me consult with council and get you an answer.
We don't have contracts.
So, I mean, whatever it's, whatever the terms of it. At some point.
I think Bernie's trying to put it into the wage plan that he was probably over the limit of where he should have been on the wage plan.
I don't know, what is it, what are the charges?
Sorry, everyone. I appreciate the patience. We're just trying to work out the details here.
Yeah, so there's a document. So,
Whatever's voted on.
that's what I'm telling you, it's incorporating the line item.
Okay. Thank you. So for the clarification to answer that question, what we're voting on here is the budget line items, right? And how much money that we are appropriating for that line item. So what we vote on is the funding that's available. We're not really voting on the legality of changing their salary. We don't have a contract. We are just voting on how much funding that we are putting towards that line item. Okay? There was a question over here first.
The number that was voted at the last town meeting, $39,746, was his hourly rate times his hours, even though he's a salaried person, so that would cover the 19 hours times his hourly rate would be $39,746. So that's why we put that number in there last time, was to cover his current salary, or the position's current salary.
Okay. Thank you. Additional questions? Yes.
Carla Charter, 125 Willis Road, Phillipston. This is just a general question. They said he gets paid salary for 19.5 hours. What happens if he goes over those hours? Where does the money come from?
It's salary.
Same amount? Doesn't get like overtime or anything?
Correct. Okay, are there any additional questions before we move to a vote on the $37,921 amendment? Oh, yes.
Barbara Hurton, Baldwin Hill Road. I have a question about what is the 45...
Please speak right into the mic.
Yes. What is the 45,651? What is that figure all about?
So that is the amended budget amount that the Finance Committee put, that was the original, or the part of this warrant.
So why aren't we talking about that figure right now?
Because there was a motion and a second to reduce that line item from the 45,651 to 37,921.
So can I have a comment?
Yep.
My comment would be that they put their lives on the line every day. I think we should go with the 45. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional questions around the motion to amend to 37,921? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. I'm going to do a standing vote on this one. All those in favor of amending the fire chief salary from 45,651 to 37,921, please stand. So the amendment fails.
Well, you got to take the
No vote. Oh, hang on one moment. Can all those against the amendment of 37,921, please stand. Amendment fails by majority. So, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. So, now that we've moved through that motion and amendment request, we have a additional amendment request with second, or motion with second, to move the fire chief salary to the $39,746 figure that was voted on at the earlier annual town meeting. Is there any discussion around this item? Yes.
Paul Valoy, 725 Earlston Road. I made the motion myself to bring it to what was voted upon, but if everybody agrees with the 45,651, I would make a motion we keep at what was what's amended here, seeing that we have the funding.
Hang on 1 second, sir.
So are you going to rescind your original motion?
I'll rescind my first motion and make the motion that we keep the salary as presented here at 45,651.
You made the motion.
To rescind. Now he's... He can't rescind it?
I guess if somebody else can make this a motion, I'm just going to rescind it. Okay. There's no motion. You don't need them to have a motion. You keep it at 46 at that point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I had to get some clarification from council on that. I have everyone's attention, please. All right. So the second amendment request was to move from 45,651 to 39,746. There was a motion, there was a second. The individual who made the motion has since rescinded their motion. So at this point in time, that line item is as is at the 45,651 that is currently in this warrant under the article. Is there any additional question on this line item? Yes, sir.
From the response to when I made the second motion, I make the motion again to bring it to what was voted upon at the 39,746 at the previous town meeting.
Second. We just made the motion again. I don't know why we rescinded it.
Okay. All right. So we are back to amending the fire chief's salary, and there was a second to 39,746. Is there any additional discussion on this? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. I'm going to have this be a standing vote. All those in favor of amending the fire chief salary line item to 39,746, please stand.
Correct. Yes. No vote will be keeping it at 46, 45.
This one, yeah. That was ridiculous. Why? Some people want to do what they do.
This is just a majority. So just a majority? Yeah. Yeah, you still, yeah, you definitely, I would just take it, just take it at this point, yeah.
All right, thank you. All those who are standing, please be seated. All those opposed to the amendments to reduce to 39,746, please stand. Okay, thank you, everyone. You can be seated. Passes. All right. So we got 56 yeses, so the amendment passes with a majority to 39,746. Okay. We can move on to the next line item that was in question. Police Department, Police Chief Salary, $93,642. There was a question. Is there still a question on the floor?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to reduce the police chief salary to $78,184.
Okay, so there's a motion with a second on the floor to change the police chief salary line item from $93,642 to $78,184. Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
Paul Valois, 725 Royston Road. I make the motion that does. Oh, I have to wait. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
As per my previous readings, the step that Bernie proposed approximately is approximately mid-range of the pay grade. So that's, if we're hiring a new chief and it's a mid-range, not that I support one way or another, I'm just saying that is about mid-range of the pay grade.
Thank you. All right, with that additional information, is there any additional discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. So the vote is to amend the police chief's salary line item from $93,642 to $78,184. This is going to be another standing vote, folks. I appreciate the patience. The votes have just been too close. All those in favor of this change, please stand. Thank you, tellers. We appreciate the assistance. Good for their nose. All right. All those opposed to the amendment to 78-184, please stand. Okay, so there were 61 noes, so the amendment fails by majority. Are there any additional questions on the floor? Yes, sir.
Paul Valois, 725 Royston Road. I make a motion that the police chief salary goes to $86,944 as was voted upon at the previous town meeting.
So there's a motion on the floor to amend the police chief's salary from $93,642 to $86,944 with a second. Is there any discussion around this? Yes, sir. If you could please come up to the microphone and state your name and address. Mine too.
Chris Sawyer, 670 Royalston Road. Does this mean that a new chief would come in here, start at 86,000 when they don't know the town? Or maybe they do, maybe they're a part-timer, fine. But does this mean they're going to start at 86,000 or will there be negotiation?
Thank you. Let me see if there's any.
Negotiation, because maybe they were 70 and they work their way up like most people have to. And okay, negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a question, sir?
Richard Valquist, 70 Baldwinville Road. Is the current police chief, or is there a planned contract set up for the incoming chief?
Yeah, that isn't really in line with the scope of the article. They did state that it would be negotiations. Did Board of Selectmen have any additional comments on that?
We don't even have, we're interviewing, we don't even have that person we're negotiating with
All right, thank you.
Mr. Moderator, the question is there a current chief, is he under a contract?
The current chief is not under.
Okay. Is the incoming chief, who has not been selected as of this time, is there any plan to place him under a contract?
Not at this time.
Ever?
I can't answer what's going to happen.
That's outside of the scope of the line item. Okay, is there any additional discussion on this? All right, seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. The motion with second is to reduce the line item of the police chief salary from $93,642 to $86,944. Again, I appreciate your patience. We're going to have to do a standing vote on this. All those in favor of the change, stand. Okay, so all those opposed to the amendment, please stand. So the amount of, guys can stand, sit. The amount of votes for yes was 53, which passes by a majority, so the amendment passes. Moving on. Yep. So moving on to the next line item. Under payroll, $278,467. Is there still a question on the floor?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, I move that we amend that back to the 272,921 that was voted at the previous town meeting.
Second.
929.
Okay, so there's a motion with a second to amend the payroll line item from 278,467 to 272,929. Is there any additional discussion around this? Seeing no question, we will move to a vote. All those in favor of amending the police department payroll line item from 278,467 to 272,929, please stand.
Could you repeat those numbers again, please?
The vote is to go back to the original, so column 1. So instead of going with column 2, 278,467, it's to go to column 2, 272,929.
First, do which line do? Honestly, when I took this, I said I never told that was a very
Okay, you can be seated. All those opposed, please stand. You can be seated. Okay, the vote was 53 yeses, so it passes by a majority. Okay, so moving on to the next line item that was questioned goes to Highway Department payroll, $214,348. Is there any additional question on the floor?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
A motion that we amend that back to the original that was voted at the previous town meeting to 205,016.
Second.
Hearing a second, there's a motion on the floor with a second to change the highway payroll line item from 214,348 to 205,16. Is there any additional discussion on this? Seeing no discussion, we will move to a vote. I'm going to do a voice vote on this one just because the last few votes there has been a significant majority. So all those in favor of changing the highway department payroll line item from 214,348, I know, to change it from to, I'm just going to repeat that. So all those in favor of changing the highway payroll department line item from 214,348 to 205,16, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay. Passes by a majority. And that was the final line item that was in question. We're going to take a moment here to recalculate the total so we can, at that point in time,
We'll be fine. We'll figure it They got to add all the numbers with the reductions. Okay. And then they got to.
Thank you for everyone's patience. It's just going to be a couple more moments.
Based on the new number. And then after that, it should be a couple of minutes. It should be out here. They're pretty quick.
Good news is the next one should go pretty quickly, I would think.
I would hope so.
You never know. I don't like to count my chickens.
Well, I know. Actually,
$2615203?
Yes. What is that?
2615203.
Mr. Moderator, I move to rescind the vote taken under Article 8 of the May 8th, 2024 Annual Town Meeting warrant and raise and appropriate $2,615,203 to pay the town charges for the 12-month period commencing July 1st, 2024, and further, that appointing authorities shall set salaries for personnel within the amounts appropriated hereunder in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108, as set forth in the column entitled FY 25 Amended.
Second.
Hearing a second, is there any discussion? $2,615,203. Is there any additional discussion? Yes, sir.
My name's Dean Howard. I live at 80 Whitney Road. My question is I don't even know why we're here voting on this. The town voted a few weeks ago, and it just seems pretty kind of disrespectful to the town people that we vote on something, and now we have to waste our evening again and come up here and vote on it again.
I'll have the Finance Committee comment on that.
Okay, because when we had our annual town meeting, we had built our budget with the premise that the override would pass. So the override failed. We needed to balance our budget. We had to come in and reduce some of the figures in order to be able to have a balanced budget.
My last
Thank
comment,
you.
I'm really disappointed with the leaders of my town.
Okay, well, let's keep in, well, you got to keep in line with the article and discussion around the amounts, please. Okay. Is there any additional discussion before we move to a vote on the total amount? Yes. Yep, the total amount that we are voting on is $2,615,203. I'm not sure I understand the question.
All right, the motion is basically what's written under Article 1, except that I said I move the town vote to rescind the article, blah, blah, blah. And instead of such sums of money, I entered in $2,615,203. And it
Yeah,
reflects all
so
the
this amount has been revised to reflect the changes that were voted upon. Is there any additional discussion? Yes, sir. If you could come, does that move the question? Okay, there's a move the question motion with a second. You know, there are actually no further questions, so I'm going to just move to a vote. So, all those in favor of the Article 1 as moved, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Passes by a majority. All right, moving on to Article 2.
I move the town rescind the vote taken under Article 30 of the May 8th, 2024 annual town meeting warrant and transfer from free cash $56,983 to the stabilization fund.
Second.
Hearing a second. Is there any discussion? As is written in the article, $56,983. Any additional discussion? Yes, sir.
Where is it coming from? Why do we want it?
Finance Committee. Moving forward.
Okay, at the annual town meeting, I don't remember the exact amount, but we voted monies from free cash to the stabilization fund. We then realized that we were that we didn't leave enough money in free cash because based on the DOR's formula, you should have a certain percentage of free cash left over towards next year. So we reduced the amount of free cash. That's why I'm rescinding the vote from the annual town meeting and giving you a new amount of money that's coming from free cash into the stabilization fund. So we're still putting some money in there.
Okay, is there any additional discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to dissolve this special town meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Thank you everyone for your patience this evening. We appreciate the